Hello, welcome to the new video The Love of Milim and Rimuru by BenGrem1234. Chapter 60. The power of a deity. Shido watched as Carrera was erased from his attack. That should have erased both her past, present, and future self. The existence of the being called Carrera is no longer in existence in this reality, Shido said to himself as he turned around and began to fly away. Before he could fly far, he stopped and turned back to the spot where Carrera was erased and observed it in shock. How is this possible? He asked as he watched that spot in shock. The reason for his shock was that a bright light began to emanate from the spot Carrera used to be. Not only that, dust particles began to gather around the area, taking the form of a human shape. The dust merged together until it took the form of Carrera. Shido watched as Carrera revived from absolutely nothing. He could not understand how this phenomenon was possible, considering that he personally erased her from all timelines. To make matters worse, she had a completely new aura around her which threatened even him. Carrera opened her eyes and looked at her hand as she closed and opened it. She closed her eyes and felt herself and couldn't help but marvel at the level of power she possesses. She opened her eyes and looked at Shido without any expression. How did you revive and become a deity, no less? Shido asked her, still with his calm expression. So this is deity power flowing through me. I understand now why it is almost impossible to reach this realm by ordinary means. One would have to reach the pinnacle of the multiverse, and after reaching that height, one would have to destroy or erase all versions of oneself from all timelines, including their present self. Only after that does one have a 1 in a billion chance of transcending the world to become oneness with everything. A deity is one with all and all in one. Everything in all reality exists within a deity, and the deity represents the abstraction that has broken free from the realm of creation, Carrera explained mostly to herself as she turned to Shido. No wonder I stood no chance against you before. I, who was still under the control of the system Lord Veldanaba created, have no possible hope of comprehending your power. Only by killing or erasing all versions of myself in all timelines that are still under the system and reviving can I break free and reach this realm. Unfortunately, this method only has a 1 in a billion chance of success, and luckily for me, I am one of the lucky ones. I thank you for your assistance in erasing all versions of myself from all timelines, but I will have to pay you back for all the beating you gave me. Shido's face changed a little after hearing that. I see. You may have become a deity, but don't think that you stand a chance against one who has taken thousands of years to master my powers in this realm. We'll see about that. Prepare yourself, Shido. Carrera materialized a completely new sword from thin air and rushed at Shido with a speed that could not be classified under the realm of speed, since even time and space meant nothing before her. Shido materialized his own sword and used it to block Carrera's sword. The shockwave from their clash shook the entire universe. This shockwave would have easily destroyed not only this universe but countless other universes in nearby dimensions, but due to the fact that Rimuru was strengthening the entire universe with his aura, no one could destroy it unless they were on Rimuru's level of power. Shido pushed Carrera back and raised his sword in the air. Immediately, in the blink of an eye, space opened, and a whole universe different from the one therein was created. A bigger universe appeared above that universe, and an even bigger universe appeared above that one as well. In the blink of an eye, countless universes that seemed to transcend the one below them appeared. Shido, who created all this, brought down his sword. Immediately, all those countless universes exploded, and all the explosions were channeled in a way that they were directed by Shido to only target Carrera. Carrera looked at the explosion that was coming towards her with a calm look. If it was the previous her, this level of explosion of countless universes that transcended each other was enough to kill her, but now, it was simply not worth her attention. She waved her sword in the direction of the explosion, and it all vanished without a trace. This didn't shock Shido as he knew that a deity was capable of this much and more. Not wasting any more time, Carrera appeared before Shido and brought down her sword again with more force, but it was met with an equal force as Shido countered it with his own sword. Both of them began to exchange sword moves with each other at a fast speed. While fighting, both of them broke the space barrier of the entire cardinal universe and appeared in a space different from the out-of-space of the cardinal universe. In that space, an uncountable number of universes were lined up behind the cardinal universe in descending order. The cardinal universe appeared to transcend that universe below it, and that universe appeared to transcend the one below it as well. This was the way the universes were arranged. Despite this, Carrera and Shido were still fighting and ignored all this as they seemed to break another space barrier to appear outside a dimensional bubble in a divine white void. The void was endless and stretched out forever with no end or beginning. There were uncountable other dimensional bubbles of different sizes within the white void, and if one were to study them carefully, they would understand that those bubbles contained an infinite number of universes of different levels. This white void was the origin of everything. Everything came together from this divine place, and only a deity can actually enter it. Even with all this, Carrera and Shido continued their fight while ignoring everything around them. The shockwave from their fight destroyed countless bubbles. This was no mere bubble but rather a dimensional space that contains an infinite number of universes that transcends each other. While fighting, Carrera would use her power, and Shido would counter it, and Shido would use his power, and Carrera would also counter it. In the realm of deity, there was no concept of strength or power anymore. Concepts, providence, laws, principles, and even limits were all things created by Veldanava, who was a deity. Therefore, there was no such thing in the realm of a deity. They would just have to create their own at their whims. Due to this, natural laws no longer applies to them, which is also why they can ignore the laws of physics. In this realm, the victor is decided by whose will is stronger. If one's conviction or will is even a little bit inferior to the other, it can change the outcome of the battle. Carrera, as she fought Shido with her all, couldn't help but marvel at the level of power she is fighting with. So, this is the realm Lord Rimuru is in. No wonder Lord Rimuru's power appears omnipotent to us. There is nothing that seems impossible for a deity to do. This is the realm that transcends all. I must win and show Lord Rimuru my new power, Carrera thought to herself. With that new resolve, Carrera's will began to take priority over the will of Shido's, and it showed in their fight. As they clashed their weapons, Shido was shocked to see his sword being pushed back. He began to panic and flew back to keep his distance. How could Carrera allow such a thing to happen? She chased him and sent a powerful sword slash at him that destroyed many bubbles on its path as it headed to Shido. Shido saw this and used his left hand to create an infinite multidimensional barrier to protect himself, but when the slash reached him, it ignored the barrier and impacted Shido, tearing his left shoulder to his midsection in the process. Shido had a gobsmacked expression as he saw the wound on his body and couldn't help the fear that crept within his heart. Carrera calmly looked at him. "You are panicking." Shido indeed was panicking, but he couldn't help it. "What did you do? How are you injuring me when I am above such concepts?" It is true that deities are above all concepts created by Lord Veldanava, but fighting you, I have understood how this realm works way more than you have. This realm is all about our will, and nothing else matters. Strength, power, skills, techniques, laws, and concepts mean nothing before us. All that matters is our belief and conviction to be able to do it. If we believe we can do it, then all things are possible. That is the realm we are in, the realm of deity, Carrera explained to Shido while getting her sword ready. You are beginning to doubt whether it is possible to beat me with your power, and it is affecting your powers. I, on the other hand, have no doubt that I can beat you. I believe with full confidence and conviction that I am superior to you in every way or form, and that is why I am above you. As you are now, you are no longer my match. Saying that, Carrera disappeared and appeared before Shido with her sword aimed at his heart. Shido panicked and tried to move out of the way, but he discovered that he couldn't move. He understood that Carrera must have created a law to restrict his movement for a few seconds, and by the time he discovered this, Carrera's sword had already pierced his heart. He vomited blood as he glared at Carrera, who glared right back at him. Carrera kicked him in the stomach, which sent him flying, pulling her sword out of his heart in the process. Shido stopped himself and looked up at Carrera, but he discovered that something was wrong. He looked at himself and discovered that his greatest fear had come to pass. I have succeeded in sealing away your authority. You no longer have the power over the laws and concepts, which means that even a deity like you can die now. Time to finish this, Carrera shouted. She raised her left hand and immediately created countless universes above her, and each of the universes she created seemed to have power equaling the universes in the super dimensions. Carrera then raised her sword, and the countless universes broke down into light and began to fuse with her sword. In the blink of an eye, the light fused with the sword, and the sword began to glow a bright shining color that reflected the countless universes it is fused with. Shido saw this and was consumed with fear. He instinctively knew that he would die if he should ever be hit by that sword. He turned around and flew away as fast as he could, but he didn't go far before Carrera appeared before him with her glowing sword. "Take my new ultimate move. Starlight Break." As she slashed her sword at him without any hesitation, a bright light shot out from the sword and consumed Shido, who tried to create a barrier to block the move. "Ah!" Shido screamed as the light of the sword began to disintegrate him to nothingness. "I am a deity. How can I lose to the likes of you?" Shido shouted as he was erased. Immediately, an explosion erupted that destroyed countless bubbles in the void. Not just that, the white void itself shook from the explosion caused by Carrera's Starlight Break. After a few minutes, the explosion died down, and Carrera looked and saw that Shido was indeed gone for good. She breathed out and looked around and saw where she actually was. "The heck is this place?" Not understanding where she was, Carrera closed her eyes and sensed for where the Cardinal Universe was. She immediately disappeared and appeared in the Cardinal Universe. She floated around the space until she reached her planet. Not wasting time, she disappeared and appeared before the battlefield still going on in the kingdom of Forgotten Dragon. Looking around, Carrera found the whole fight to be laughable. Her being a deity made everything appear insignificant before her. She coughed and spoke in a soft tone, but her voice resounded in the entire kingdom of Forgotten Dragon. "My name is Carrera, and I bear the title Menace Lord. I am a faithful servant of my lord Rimuru Tempest and his wife Milim. For daring to attack my queen's nation, I sentence all you angels to death." Saying that, Carrera waved her hand, and an omnipotent power covered the entire kingdom. Immediately, the entire angel began to scream in agony as their bodies began to disintegrate into nothingness. In a blink of an eye, all the angels numbering more than 1,000,000 strong died a miserable death. Kumara, who was just about to round up her fight with the commander angels she was fighting, felt frightened beyond belief. Even though at her level, she can easily wipe out those angels as long as they were not elites or primordial. Seeing how casually Carrera did it and feeling the power behind her casual attack brought fear to her and all those in the kingdom. "Good thing she is on our side and not an enemy. I can't imagine anyone besides Lady Milim and Lord Rimuru being a match for her," Carrion said his true feelings while sweating. "You said it. Looking at her, she looks and feels like an ordinary human and not even a demon, but who can question her after seeing what she did?" Frey said in admiration as she watched Carrera in the air. Kumara nodded. "Guess she has ascended to a new height beyond anything I can reach. I can't call myself powerful after seeing that." As those three were talking, Carrera spoke again. "All my demon subordinates, I want you all to go out and assist any one of our allies you see in need of reinforcement. The rest of you guys should stay here and protect this kingdom from any more angels that might be lurking around." Everyone nodded and began to do as Carrera instructed. Carrion, Frey, and Kumara flew up to where Carrera was. They reached her and greeted her, which she returned. "Lady Carrera, why can't I feel any power from you? I am already as strong as true dragons, meaning I am already at the peak of this world, but I can't feel anything from you," Kumara asked her in a casual way. Carrion and Frey didn't know how to feel with what Kumara said. She said it like being as strong as a true dragon is no big deal, but she doesn't understand what it actually meant to be as strong as a true dragon. Doesn't being as strong as true dragons mean that Kumara is already as strong as Lady Milim before her personal training? Doesn't this make her unbeatable in this world unless a similar opponent of equal power is the one challenging her? And she is here saying it like it is no big deal to be as strong as true dragons. Carrera shook her head. "That's because I am now a deity." "Wait, seriously?" Kumara exclaimed in shock. "Wait, you have actually reached the legendary realm of the gods?" Frey couldn't hide her astonishment. "That explains why you appear to be so unfathomable. So this is the power of a deity," Carrion said in shock and surprise. "Yeah, it is. As a deity, all those who are not on this realm can never sense or comprehend the power of a deity unless the deity allows them," Carrera explained to them. "That makes sense. What will you be doing now, Lady Carrera?" Carrion asked her. Carrera turned her attention to the direction of the east. "I'll be going back to the Golden City El Dorado to help out in the fight there. I have the power to click my finger and erase all the angels on the planet, but an even greater power prevents me from doing that. I guess that power belongs to Lady Rimuru. Due to this, I can only go and fight the angels like all the rest of you guys, Carrera told them. I see. Well, since you are a deity now, do you think you can revive Geld, who fell in battle? Kumara asked her. Carrera shook her head. I already felt Geld die, and I indeed have the power to revive him, but I can't feel his soul, which may be because of two reasons. One is that his soul was completely erased from this world, and the other is that someone stronger than me took his soul. I feel that it is the second reason, and if it is, I might know who took his soul. After all, only two people are stronger than the current me and only one of them are on Earth at the moment. After hearing what Carrera said, Kumara was relieved. After all, who else has the power to collect the soul of Geld from the watch of Carrera and herself other than her master? Guess he is always looking out for them even in this war. If it was her master, then Geld will be fine, and she doesn't need to worry. After discussing with them, Carrera disappeared with her destination being Golden City El Dorado. Truth is, she just wants to show off to Testarossa and Diablo on the fact that she is a deity now. The look on their face when they see her new power is something Carrera will not miss for the world. Chapter 61. The Clash at the Jura Forest Federation. As the war was nearing its conclusion, a massive battle was underway in the capital city Rimuru. Various battles were unfolding throughout the entire Jura Forest. Massive, country-level explosions were occurring in different parts of the forest. The terrain of the Jura Forest had been turned upside down due to the effects of the ongoing battle. At the forefront of the battle with the angels, Tyr, holding her scythe given to her by Kurabi, was seen single-handedly battling an army of angels. Covered in blood that was hers and her enemies, Tyr looked at the angels surrounding her with an angry expression that could not be seen due to her mask. Is this the best you weaklings can do? Come at me with all you've got, you stupid angels, Tyr shouted. Damn puppet. You'll pay for mocking us. We'll show you the power granted to us by our queen. The angels roared as they all released light particle attacks that headed for Tyr. Millions of light particles gathered together and attacked her. Tyr raised her scythe and began to spin it. The speed and force of the spin created an energy vortex that shielded Tyr from all the light particles that bombarded her. The attack disintegrated everything in the vicinity except for Tyr and where she stood. After the attack was over, Tyr threw her scythe with great force at the army of angels in the air. The scythe, having a mind of its own, began to spin in the air while rotating to attack the angels. While the angels were distracted by that, Tyr raised her hand and gathered her newfound power to release a powerful punch. The force of the punch carried a powerful shockwave that moved through the air until it reached where the army of angels was. Once the shockwave made contact with the angels, it caused a massive sonic wave that released continental-sized explosion that destroyed countless angels in its wake. Everyone, both allies and foes who saw the sonic wave explosion, couldn't help but feel fear creeping up on them. They couldn't believe that such power had come from a girl like Tyr. Tyr wasn't always this strong. When her family was still alive, Tyr was only as strong as a demon lord like the orc disaster that was killed by Rimuru way back then. But after running to the capital city Rimuru to escape the pursuit of Rimu, who ruthlessly massacred her family along with Yuki, her whole life changed. Rimuru's subordinates were of the opinion that she should die due to all the crimes her and her family had committed. It was unanimously agreed by all of them that she would be executed by beheading. Tyr, who had just lost her family and had bore witness to the unfathomable power both Rimuru and Rimu possessed, gave up hope of living and just wanted the pain to end. She was more than willing to die, but her execution was stopped by none other than Demon Lord Milim Nava. Milim took her under her wing, and Rimuru's subordinates didn't question her as she was their queen. Tyr, who was confused about why anyone would want to save her after everything she had done, asked Milim why. The answer she got changed her whole life. Do you really think dying is the best solution to escape from your pain? I know what you are going through because I went through something similar in the past. The pain of losing a loved one is something I know too well, but I am different from you because, unlike you, I had others who were willing to support me and I had Rimuru who loved me despite all my faults. Just as Rimuru was there for me, I want to be there for you too. If you want to protect those around you and to feel safe in this world, then you need to grow stronger. Strong enough that anyone will think twice before messing with you. But you don't need to rush because I will protect you from now on until you are strong enough to stand on your own against any force in this world. You don't need to worry because I'll be your family now. When Tyr heard this, She asked her why she would go so far for her, but Milim answered in a typical Milim's way. Well, you are pretty much the only other person I have seen with pink hair besides myself. I can't help but see you as a little sister, you know, and as a big sister, it is my duty to protect you until you are strong enough to protect yourself. Tear, who heard this answer, truly didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she was happy that someone other than her family loved her. She vowed in that moment to grow stronger than anyone else to be able to protect Milim and all those she loved with everything she had. It wasn't long after that she heard a voice in her dream asking her if she wants power. After agreeing to the voice, her unique skills Optimist and Manipulator, which were reproduced from Clayman's information particles, were combined and evolved into the ultimate skill Optimistic Performer Orpheus. With this enhancement, Tear felt that her overall power had significantly improved. She felt strong enough to defeat a demon lord like Leon all on her own. That's how crazy her new power was. It was no wonder she was eliminating those angels with minimal effort. Back in the fight, raising her hand, Tear caught her scythe, which flew back to her. She watched the remaining battalion of angels with a wary look. Not wasting time or giving the enemy time to recover, Tear jumped up to attack the angels. Sue, who was playing a support role for Tear and the rest of the people fighting the angels, couldn't help but marvel at Tear's unexpected power. Is it a good thing that she is not an enemy because her power is definitely helpful in killing these angels? This fight is getting too heated and many of our allies have died including Master Hakuro, but the deciding factor for victory is the fight between Benimaru, Lady Chloe, and that male elite of Lady Rimuru. Since everyone who are still alive are giving it their all, I can't hold back either. Thinking this, Sue made his move by activating a new skill he had learned, 1,000-Hand Shadow Kill. Immediately, shadows stretched out into 1,000 hands and attacked the angels without mercy. This skill was learned after Sue received an ultimate skill. His ultimate skill Tsukuyomi, Lord of Moonshade, granted him complete control over all shadows in the world with the ability to freely move from shadow to shadow on a global scale, and it even let him become shadow itself. With his ultimate skill pushed to the limit, Sue was able to kill a lot of angels with little effort. It didn't help that the current Sue could create nearly infinite clones of himself, and his clones had powers close to the original, making them a great asset to the overall situation on the battlefield. Just like that, the fight in the Jura Tempest Federation began to enter its climax. At a faraway location in the Jura Forest, different from the main battlefield outside the capital city Rimuru, a great battle was taking place in the air. The world shook due to the power both parties were unleashing. In that fight, Chloe, with her long, beautiful black and silver hair, was holding her Saber Moon mistress and fighting the blonde-haired man, who was one of the male elite of Rimuru. Clad in her divine spirit armor, the moonlight saber in her hand was used to attack her opponent without hesitation. Her swordsmanship was beautiful, and her skills were excellent. Wielding her saber in hand, Chloe showed just why she bore the title of true hero. The male elite, whose name was Taehan, was no slouch either. His blonde hair was slicked back, and he was wearing a uniform consisting of a long-sleeved, double-breasted black coat with 2 rows of gold buttons down the front, red details including shoulder epaulets, gores at the bottom, and stripes on sleeves. Other decorations included gold aiguillettes and white fourragères worn on the right shoulder, attached to a stylized cherry blossom decoration pendant at the center of his collar. He wore a pair of white gloves, a black-on-white armband on his left arm, and a similarly striped black and white web belt with a frog for his sword on the left, and a gold waist plate. In addition, he also wore the uniform trousers with 2 white belts strapped around his left leg and black shoes. Holding a sword in his hand, Taehan countered all of Chloe's moves with equal talent for the sword. Both of them began to exchange sword moves at a speed that defied reason by this world's standards. They were moving so fast that the world appeared to have stopped in time for both of them. I can't believe that a human as strong as you actually exists in this world. This has really broadened my horizon, Taehan said as he sent a sword wave at Chloe. Absolute Severance. Chloe, activating her skill, slashed her sword, which cut down everything in its path, including the sword wave heading towards her. You are pretty cocky for someone who claims to be the strongest yet hasn't even touched a single hair on me, Chloe told him while rolling her eyes. Taehan ignored her and turned to Benimaru, who was a distance behind Chloe, observing the battle. Why don't you let that Oni assist you? Your chances of beating me will surely increase. He has his own job, and I have mine, Worry about me first before looking at what others are doing." Saying that, the world's time stopped, and when it resumed, Chloe was already in front of Taehan, slashing her saber at his face. Taehan raised his own sword and deflected the blow, and both of them resumed their fight. Benimaru, who was observing the fight between Chloe and Taehan, couldn't help but marvel at Chloe's level of power. "I guess that is a hero for you, but to think she is this strong. I guess I have to use that move if I want to keep up with her and kill this guy." Benimaru, saying this to himself, began to gather his power. He wasn't just standing in the air doing nothing all this time. With the sub-skill, will control, that was derived from his ultimate skill, Benimaru was able to connect with all his allies fighting in the Jura forest and make them all work as if they were of one will. This greatly increased the way everyone fought due to how coordinated they all were, thanks to Benimaru. This was why Chloe chose to be the vanguard in fighting Taehan to give Benimaru more time to use his skill. Now that the battle in Tempest was almost over, Benimaru could put all his attention into his fight with Taehan. Drawing out his sword Red Lotus, Benimaru began to activate his power. The red lotus in his hand began to shine with a bright red glow and began to emit power that appeared to transcend time and space. Taehan clashed with Chloe and jumped back to observe her next move, but as soon as he looked behind Chloe, he was shocked. "What the hell is that?" Taehan screamed. Chloe felt an enormous amount of power behind her and turned to see what was happening. When she turned, she became speechless due to what she saw. Not just her, but in the entire Jura forest, everyone stopped what they were doing due to their shock at what they were seeing. What shocked everyone was the appearance of a red and black sun in the sky of the entire Jura forest. The solar energy radiating from the second sun was so massive that all those below true dragon level could hardly breathe. All of a sudden, the red and black sun began to shrink at an alarming speed. Even though the red and black sun was shrinking, the energy it left behind was getting bigger and bigger. It took less than a minute for the entire red and black sun to disappear, but a massive energy was emanating from where the sun was. Standing where the sun was before was Benimaru with his crimson hair blazing, his outfit covered in red flames, and flames pulsing around him. His crimson sword was blazing, and his aura was 10 times that of before. The strange thing about his flames was that it appeared to be burning everything and at the same time burning nothing. This was the contradiction of Benimaru's new flames. Taehan looked at the new Benimaru in shock. The destructive energy of nothingness. How does he have that? Benimaru ignored his question and flew to Chloe's side. "Sorry for leaving him to you before. Let's take him down together." Even though Chloe was still shocked, she nodded and turned to face Taehan. "We should be able to eliminate him with your new power." Taehan, hearing what they said, turned gloomy. "Do you two seriously think you are my match? I admit your new form and power is impressive, but don't think you are the only one with turn null energy. Observe my full power without holding back." Saying that, Taehan began to release an enormous amount of energy from his body. His aura changed and became covered with turn null energy. To give a comparison of his current aura, he appeared to have an equal amount of power with Rimuru when he first ascended to a true dragon during his fight with Veldora. Add the turn null energy he was emanating, then he was slightly superior to Rimuru when he first ascended to a true dragon. This was the true power of an elite when using turn null energy.